but this one just because prime time on the road, you really need it. If you win, the percentage of making the playoffs, looking at the recent history in the NFL, is like 21.5%. You lose that game, now you're really in a tough spot because I think the percentages go down to about 2.5% making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so the magnitude of the game, the national stage, and the expectations all put in, I think that qualifies as the worst loss in franchise history.
It's right there with them. Don't forget 50-10 at the hand of the Minnesota Vikings in '98 as well. Because that was a good team. That was a 10-win team.
Yeah, no,
at that point in time. But I said it last night. If you're in the weeds on is this the first, second, or third worst game? Well, it's not good.
The Minnesota game was a little bit of a. It wasn't exactly wasn't expected, but it wasn't like a trend.
No, that's
so.
Right,
it was kind of just like one of those freak games. Okay, that it can happen. Let's flush it and we can move on. And which in '98 we did. But this one here, you've got the loss in week 1, and then you didn't handle the adversity, and then week 2 you allow the Cleveland Browns, which offensively looked like garbage, to come out and score on their first 3 possessions.
Yeah.
So I think of the circumstances, I think this one would probably.
I think it is the worst. And when you think about it from the perspective, that felt like the bell signaling the end of 2024 in some ways, right? Like, I don't know, Jeff, how they recover from. We saw the way that they bounced back from the first 2 weeks. It's like at some point you guys got to stand up and show this isn't who you are. Mm-hmm. Well, last night, is that supposed to be some example of this is not who we are? It's, as you mentioned, I think it is the worst loss when you compare it to the other really bad losses in franchise history. This is at the beginning of a season where there were expectations. You just heard Shah Khan talking about it, right? Like, we know what the expectation was upon this football team going into the season. All right, so you fumbled against Miami, and that cost you the opportunity to win that game. Get over it. The next play, they give up the long touchdown pass, right? The next week, Cleveland is miserably bad, and they couldn't find a way to win that football game.
Yeah.
They get in their own way. Last night wasn't about getting in their own way. They couldn't get in anybody's way last night. Josh Allen I was just looking at total QBR, like game grades. He had one of the top 50 grades they've ever had.
Oh, he was amazing.
In a game. Like, it's embarrassingly bad.
I think I used the term surgical in the broadcast.
And I don't know where you turn to from here to even try to find a spark. I don't know if that spark is in the room, and I've thought all along it's there, but last night killed it for me.
It's got to come from the players.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And I said this kind of towards the end of our broadcast last night. It's the only way you get out of something like this is that you pack your lunch, put on your work boots, put on the blinders, and put on some earmuffs so you don't hear the noise, and get back to work. I mean, that's the only thing you can do as a player and as a coach. But as a coach, I think, and as a player, you have to look at doing some things differently. Because if you don't, then I think it makes it feel like you're not doing something to make it better. So, and I don't know what that is. I think that, that's for Doug Pederson to determine, and that's for the players themselves to determine, but you have to do something different to make this season turn. And after 3 games, the season is not over. I mean, there's 14 games to go.
They're going to play them.
Okay, and they're going to happen, and so you might as well get ready for them. And some of the important ones are right here in front of you. 2 division games right now. So you got to figure a way out to play better than that. And the hard part is that this team has regressed in the 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, the coach was pointing out, Doug was talking about, play here, play there, and we win. Well, yeah, you didn't have a play here and a play there.
25 plays last night if they had gone our way.
Right.
Might have tilted the balance.
And I almost think that to some extent that, you didn't recognize where you were at a little bit. And so you're saying, oh, we're fine. We're okay. Well, no. You didn't make the plays in week 1. You didn't make the plays in week 2, and you came out listless in a home opener. So I think that there's got to be some hard looks. And I'm talking hard looks in the mirror on this one now.
It's going to come up a lot today. I already have a flood of questions on it. Should jobs be on the line right now? You're the owner. You've set this bar. It's gotten progressively worse, as you said. At least you had, something to hang your hat on. The defense was abysmal. The offense has scored fewer points every week. Right now, they're among the bottom handful of teams in offense and putting points on the board. the team doesn't seem to be responding. They didn't have any fight again last night, it appeared. Logs, at what point do you think it's reasonable to consider, coaching staff moves or front office moves or any of that stuff? Or are we way too early in your opinion?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with rearranging some roles, but I think drastic changes are fruitless at this point. I mean, you can't just go, we're going to fire this guy and we're going to change head coaches or change general managers. I mean, all that stuff is not for now. But tweaking and adjusting, whether it be, play time, whether it be play caller, whatever, I think all of that has to be looked at because you're looking to jumpstart a team and get it back on the right track. So you'll look at everything, and you should look at everything. And Doug Pederson even said it after the game yesterday. He said he's even going to look at some of the things that he's doing.
Well, and I'll just add, too, that Buffalo's a team last year changed their offensive coordinator midstream and changed the direction of their team, right, and became a more balanced team and more effective in certain situations. Josh Allen's always been good. Now he doesn't have to carry them solely on his back.
Well, he did last night, boy.
I absolutely did.
And I think I was impressed. The reason I really was impressed with Joe Brady, who is the offensive coordinator you're referring to, he was the one that was pushed into the offensive coordinator position kind of midstream last year for the Bills. He really took a lot of pressure off of Josh Allen last year, handing the ball off a ton. Well, they come into this game, and you're thinking maybe the same thing, right? Josh has got the glove; it's injured hand from week one. They're trying to protect him. They're going to run the ball more. They've got James Cook. They come out and they shocked the Jaguars. I think they came out throwing and said that we know you play man, and we're gonna wear you out in your man coverage.
So where are you on that? Where a coordinator, a lot of guys say, "Hey, we run what we run."
That's what they do.
But you know that he has such a high success rate against man defense, like the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his numbers are astounding against man. Do you not have to say, if that's what they're looking for, we got to mix it up and we got to try to confuse them?
They tried to, but by then, kind of the ball was rolling, and it was just almost like then it really things started to work on against everything. Once you started to get, because the man beater plays were early in that ball game. First play of the game, James Cook out of the backfield, Devin Lloyd, and it's a pick route and a wheel route. So it's a pick by the wide receiver trying to knock off Devin so he can't get there to cover Cook on the outside, and it worked perfectly. You go down a little bit later in the drive. It was a fourth down. Jarian Jones is covering Khalil Shakir, and he's running this little kind of in and out motion. And literally, when the ball is snapped, Shakir puts on the brakes and goes back to the other side of the field. Jarian Jones had taken his eyes off of him.
Never recognized. No. Sprinting to the other side.
So
of the
literally,
defense.
when Shakir catches the ball, he's on the offensive left side of the field, and Jarian Jones is on the other side of the field completely.
Right.
I mean,
that's
I'm
his
talking
guy.
30 yards away.
I know. I know exactly. I mean, I knew when they saw it, he took like one or two false steps back to the other side. Hey, watch this. And Jones just went sprinting, never even thought he was going to try to throw him off there and just, too much, too easy.
Well, and there was another one, if you remember, that a little bit overthrown off the fingertips of Cook, I think it was.
I think it went right through his hands.
Anyway, it was Devin Lloyd in coverage.
Totally.
And it should have been a touchdown.
Yeah, he was 2 yards behind him.
Had another one in the game, and some of them you just got to give credit to Josh Allen, like the one to Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
I mean, man coverage, Buster Brown, Monteric Brown is in coverage, and they're basically got two wide receivers on the field, and it's a two-man route. That's all it is. That's all they got in the whole thing, because it's kind of like max protect. And so they're crossing kind of in the middle of the field where the safety would line up on the snap and hopefully getting kind of a knockoff of one of the coverage guys, and then Josh can throw it to whoever. Well, they didn't end up getting a knockoff of the coverage guy, but Monteric fell behind a little bit, and Josh Allen is under pressure. And he literally throws off of his back foot because here comes Eric Armstead, and it's just a flick of the wrist, and it was on. I said that I don't think Josh Allen could have walked up there and placed the ball in his hands any better than what he threw that ball. I mean, he was on point in that game, Josh Allen.
Oh, there's no question about it. He also threw for 130 yards last week.
Had a throw to Kincaid, Antonio Johnson in man coverage. early in the ball game. I think it was on the second or third scoring drive. And it was, just perfectly thrown ball. And for however you want to say it, the coverage was not good enough in this ball game. There are a lot of things that were not good enough.
Pretty much everything wasn't good enough in that ball game. All right, look, just looking at the Jaguars' schedule and what's to come, it doesn't look that inviting. I think Doug Pederson, honestly, has the hottest seat in the National Football League right now, based on the preseason comments by the owner, Shad Khan, about the expectations this year, the start that they've gotten off to, the fact that they get embarrassed on national TV on a Monday night. And we saw Demetrius Harvey reporting after the game. He spoke to someone close to Shad Khan, said he's never seen, or that person said he's never seen Mr. Khan as angry as he was last night. Not the typical response he's had. And he's been through a lot of losing over the years, to be sure. Look, it's a short week, right? This is what I think is going to play out. It's a short week, all right? So nothing's going to happen here. You lose to Houston in this kind of fashion, I think everything's on the table. But if you survive that, even if you lose, let's say it's 20-17, right, and it's competitive, you better make some hay against Indy, Chicago, and New England, right? And that's your trip to London included in that. And, you usually don't fire guys coming off wins, so that's a chance to kind of right the ship to some degree. But then coming out of that London trip, Green Bay, Philadelphia, Minnesota, Detroit, and Houston here in Jacksonville, I don't like their chances against any of those teams right now.
That's a pretty tough stretch.
Yeah. I can't believe 3 weeks into the season, I'm not saying we're going to start draft talk because we know our rules on the show.
Correct.
About that kind of nonsense. But just looking up my expectations for the team right now, I'd be more surprised if they won 6 games than if they picked in the top 5. That's the way I feel about this team right now. They are as bad or worse than any team we've seen in the league to this point.
Totally. How they're not number 32 in every power poll, because they're one of 3 winless teams, and they've looked progressively worse in doing it. Tennessee's a mess, but it's because Will Levis is a knucklehead, and that's primarily what it comes down to.
Just
just kills them.
Crazy.
You look at Cincinnati, and they're 0-3, and that 0-3 counts as much as ours, but they put up 33 points last night, and so they at least feel good about one aspect.
And they got beat on one play by Kansas City. Like, they went toe-to-toe with that team. They were right there with them. Jacksonville has
also lost to New England.
Right. Jacksonville's been toe-to-toe with a bad Miami team and toe-to-toe with a bad Cleveland team, and they played a good team last night and got it was, ugh.
By the way, Miami,
so bad
lowest scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
Lowest scoring team in the National Football League. Jack's not far behind.
I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better for them with their quarterback situation.
No, they're down to the 3rd string.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.